Hey everybody, how you doing? It's Adam Roxby here again, and in this video I'm going to be showing you how I go about making my perfect pizza and potato wedges meal. So let's have a look. Okay, so the first thing you're going to want to do, other than making sure all of your hands are washed and your ingredients are in date and all that boring stuff, is make sure you've got some good music and grab a drink. I don't know why, but music and alcohol and cooking seem to go together for me. Maybe it's just a trait from my side of the family, but there you go. So beyond that, let's have a look at the ingredients. Okay, so here's what we've got, and we're going to be starting off with what we're putting into the sauce. In the sauce we have some chopped garlic, very important, chopped tomatoes, tomato puree, obviously a saucepan, and you're going to want to have some sauce as well, some oil, like sunflower oil will do. And as well, we've got half a large chopped onion. Now, for the actual base, for the dough, we're going to be having 12 ounces, which is around 340 grams of strong white flour. Make sure it's this kind and not like self-raising or anything like that, otherwise you're going to have trouble. We have a tablespoon of olive oil, teaspoon of salt, teaspoon of yeast. The yeast actually is possibly the most important bit. I was experimenting a while back and had some bad results, and I found out actually I was using some pretty poor quality yeast. So if you're getting bad results and it's not rising properly, then check your yeast. Wedges. These are just normal potatoes, Maris Piper potatoes, chopped up, and they've been sprinkled with some oil and some mixed herbs. You can do other stuff. You can have honey. Honey goes quite well, and Dijon mustard. And for the actual toppings, you can have obviously whatever you like. I'm going for normal cheddar cheese, board of mozzarella, courgettes, sweet bell peppers, the rest of that chopped onion just for slices, and because I'm treating my wife, we've got some bacon here, and that's already been cooked, so there we go. Now, that's the ingredients. Okay, so now we know what we're working with. The first thing I like to do when I make a pizza is to make sure that I've got my sauce started. So let's go and have a look at that. Okay, so here's what we're doing. We're just going to be putting in now, we've got some oil on the go. Just going to be putting in our onions, just to brown up nicely. Now while they're going, and while they're browning up, I'm just going to tell you why I'm doing the sauce so soon. The dough takes around about an hour to an hour and a half to rise and to do all its processes and stuff like that. But I like to get my sauce going around about the same sort of time, because it can get really watery, especially when you're using tomatoes, cheap chopped tomatoes. You get a lot of water and a lot of fluid in there. And starting the sauce now gives it time to simmer down and to lose a lot of that moisture, so it ends up with a real nice thick sauce. Just grab a bit of that drink. Good stuff. And in fact, actually, you can start this at the beginning of the day and use in the afternoon or the evening or whenever you're making your pizza. So just let that brown off. Now, if you are using real garlic or garlic cloves, then this is about the time you would put them in. But because I'm using chopped garlic paste, which some might consider cheating, but I don't, then I'm going to wait a little bit for that. It's all about whatever process works well for you. Okay, so that's starting to brown off nicely, so I'm going to put in my chopped tomatoes.
Central European monument, been driving all night on the Grand Highway.
Next, we're going to put in our garlic. Now the amount you want is variable, but for fresh garlic you'd have maybe 2, maybe 3 cloves. But for this I'm just putting in a teaspoon. In that goes. tomato puree next. Good amount there. And what this does is it helps also to thicken it up. As you can see, it's quite concentrated. But what also it helps do is change the flavour somewhat. You can put tomato ketchup in, and what that'll do is that just makes it a little bit more sweeter. But I don't. Okay, so there we go. The sauce is on the go. And if you don't use all of this for your pizza base, you can use this for other things, like it can make a good tomato sauce for a pasta if you've got it left over, so you don't have to use all of it. Now I'm going to let that simmer for the duration, and if it starts to get a bit too vigorous, I can always turn it down. Okay, so now that's going, it's time to get the dough started. Okay, so now it's time to start the dough, and I'm using a bread maker, but you can do all this by hand. All you need to do, take out the inside, make sure you've got your blade, connect that in there. You take your water, 200 millilitres of water, in that goes. Make sure your base is connected in. Job done. Take your flour, that goes. Now another little tip I picked up is I put my salt one side and I put my yeast the other. I don't know if this makes a difference, but I try to keep them separated beforehand. And you put your olive oil. There we go. So if you were doing this all by hand, then you would just be mixing it up and putting it in like a warm place, like an oven that's not been switched on for about 40 minutes, and just to see it rising. So you just put it into a bowl like this, keep it covered over, and that's pretty much the same sort of thing. But I'm going to set this to the right setting, and it is. So press start, and that'll be done in 1 hour 30. See you then. So with the sauce coming along nicely and the dough is starting to rise, let's have a look at these wedges. Okay, so these marinating wedges are going to want to be in the oven for around 45 minutes to an hour at a temperature of about 180 degrees Celsius, which is 356 Fahrenheit. So bearing in mind that the pizza takes about 25 minutes to half an hour, that gives you an idea of what sort of timings you're going to have to work to. Okay, so the dough's just come out of the bread maker, and I've just lightly dusted around, just to give it something to work with so it doesn't stick to my surface. Just hitting it out now so we get rid of all of that air. Some people use oil because they think that the extra flour adds to the flavour or detracts from the flavour, but I've never had any problems. So while I'm doing this, just to go over a couple of my ingredients. Again, we've got the cheddar cheese, mozzarella, onions, sweet bell peppers, courgettes, and of course for the wife, we've got the bacon. Also, you can see that the sauce now has come down a great deal. It's really reduced down nicely, so getting on with that. Well, I think it's time to roll this out. Roll it nice and evenly, one direction. I do a bit more dusting down here. And nice and evenly in the other direction. Doesn't have to be round, obviously. So this is the difference now between the sort of the arty side and the sciencey side. When you started out making it, when you started making your base, there's not really too much room for experimenting there. But now you can get creative. Okay, so check that fits. Yeah, pretty much. got it all rolled out nice and evenly. Maybe a little bit thick around the outside edge. Now we're going to get our sauce. That's going to go on first. Depending on how saucy you like it. Ooh, misses. Depends on how much of this stuff you're going to put on. We're going for all of it. Let's get that nice and evenly everywhere. See, if this wasn't given the time to reduce down, it would have been too watery, it would have been a right mess. And at the other end, when you come to cutting it up, it would have, yeah, your topping would have slipped everywhere, and it's just a lot better if you've got the time to put the base on and start the sauce sooner rather than later. Right. Next, let's start off with the onions. Like I say, you can just do whatever you want now. Shouldn't need me to tell you how to top a pizza. Now, because this is a half meat eating and half vegetarian pizza, I'm going to start the vegetarian side first, which will be this side. So that's on with the courgette. No real plan going in there or logic. Bell peppers. Perhaps done a bit too much. Now we're going for all of this bacon, nice and even. And like I say, when I cook this, it's not fully cooked. Because don't forget, you're going to have this pizza in the oven for about 25 to 30 minutes, so it's still going to have a little bit of cooking time in there. That is proper loaded up there. Now, I prefer my mozzarella broken up into chunks rather than sliced, and I have it going on sooner rather than later. So before you put all your cheddar cheese on. The reason being is that breaking it up into chunks like this, I think, means that you get it in a nice even around all the edges and all the other little nooks and crannies, so it just spreads out that flavour. And the reason why I put it underneath the cheddar is I think it binds it a bit more. So you don't get massive great mouthfuls of mozzarella and then nothing. Just everywhere you can see a gap. Last bit's for me. Right. And the last bit is just cover it nice and generously. There you go. Now all I need to do is make sure I remember which one's the meat side and which one's the vegetarian side. Stick it in the oven and we're away. Good stuff. And that's it. It's all in the oven, it's all cooking, so let's fast forward to about 30 minutes time and have a look, see how it all came out. So that's it for this video. Hopefully by following these steps you've managed to make something just as delicious. Don't forget you can leave your comments and maybe even post your video responses and show us what you've made. But that's it for this video. I look forward to talking to you all again really soon.